So what you just said just leads us right into the next question. Was from one of the fans was, how do I get a job in racing? How does somebody get into all of this to work for you or another team?
Well, first off, you got to decide what capacity you want to be involved in racing. Because everybody's busy, from the marketing side, the sponsorship side, to, specialists like clutch guys, crew chiefs, anything in between. You probably, you're gonna have to make some sacrifices, and it for sure helps. This may not fly well, but it for sure helps to do it younger when you don't have a wife and kids and you have a built-in responsibility base, because it's a selfish business. I will say that, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a very selfish business. So, but I'm not saying that it can't work, because we've had people that have had, the wives stand by them and are like, we're moving and I'm chasing my dream.
Yeah.
Once you decide where that is we had a kid, this is no lie, we had a kid, man, I want to say he was 15 years old, and he'd be in the fan zone for the last 3 or 4 years in NASCAR, and he'd just be yelling at us, and hey, can you get so and so to sign something or whatever? Or unfortunately, when we've tore up stuff, it's like, can we have part of that fender or whatever? And he's like, man, I'm going to school, and one day I want to come to work for you. I want to get, I'm driving go-karts and just want to go. And of course, I get it, because I was there, right? So I get it. I spent time with him. The next year. So last year we ran, I think we raced here in September, whatever it was, the second Daytona race. And he's like, man, he's from Florida, I'm going to be moving to go to the NASCAR school. And I'm like, well, cool. And he's like, man, can I intern? Whatever I got to do. And I'm like, well, okay, we'll get you hooked up with Robbie. He went and talked to him, he introduced him, and he just didn't quit, right? Yeah. And so he made the commitment, and he's going to go from 0 to drinking out of a fire hose. And we've had other people that are older that have just graduated out of college and didn't quite know, that either have an engineering degree and realize that they still love racing. You have to be persistent. It's hard to get a job without being local, to say like, come in for a little bit, as opposed to, hey, I'll leave tomorrow if you hire me. That's pretty tough to do, because here's one thing that people don't understand. If you want to work on race cars, if you're wanting to prove that you can make a sandwich or spaghetti and it tastes terrible, you just cost somebody $3 or $4 or $5 and pissed them off or something, right? You make a mistake here. I've had people that probably shouldn't have had opportunities that have catastrophically cost us a lot of money and hurt people, right? So, it's if I said, hey, I got a guy, man, he's been dying to pack your chutes.
Yep.
What do you think?
Yep.
You'd be like, yeah, I tell you what, I don't know, right? Yeah. And so, you have to be willing to be local. You have to be willing to kind of work into it. There's no right or wrong to do it. But if you want to work on a sprint car team, man, you better go to the local tracks and wherever it is, so Ohio or Pennsylvania. And eventually, somebody's going to get tired of seeing you hang around, and you're going to help do something nobody wants to do. Push a car, clean it, fix it, take it apart because it's bent in two. Eventually, some people want people that are serious. It's hard to get into. It'd be no different if I was outside of my element right now and said, hey, man, I want to, man, I'm dying to work on airplanes. It would be like, well, you can touch things that maybe are important for takeoff, but nothing on landing, So.
Yep. I get that a lot. Hey, I want to come volunteer, and that's awesome. I appreciate that people, and I can't speak on the NASCAR side, obviously, 25 plus years in the nitro world, but it's a scary proposition to have somebody volunteer, because you just mentioned it. One little thing, especially in a nitro car, is instant volatility. Like right now, kaboom, can cost you a lot of money, can hurt somebody. But what I always tell people that ask me, and I get it a lot, how do I do this? And I quote my mom on this all the time. You got to have the want to. And it's very much in the drag race world, it's like joining the service, because somebody's going to tell you when to get up, when you're eating, where you're staying, and when we're hitting the road. And it just goes over and over and over. It's not about the money you make. It's not about anything other than the want to. I want to do this so badly that I'm willing to give up a normal life. Anything that you think's normal, it all becomes all consumed with that nitro burning machine. And people ask, how do I get that job? Yeah. It's just like you said, you got to show up. I always recommend people show up with a resume in hand. You don't even have to know how to work on cars. I've told the story of Austin, who's become a huge value to our team. The kid did not know what a 9/16 wrench was when he showed up. And now he's building our short blocks for a 12,000 horsepower car. But he wanted to. Yep. And I even said he's not going to make it, but he had the want to enough that
he also went through some crew chiefs that were very hard to work with. It was zero tolerances.
He was heat treated. Yeah. He was absolutely heat treated, and that's another sign of the want to. He took some of the worst, tongue lashings ever. Yep. But so I just tell I say kids, but show up with a resume. Just walk around, give them to a crew guy, give them to a crew chief. And the number one thing, of course, you got to be 21 for this. If you get a CDL, your slot, you move from this filing cabinet to this filing cabinet.
Yep.
Because we got a lot of equipment we move up and down the road.
Yes. Yeah, like you said, he's got a trailer just full of tires.
Well, in drag racing, the CDL drivers are also integral into the actual working crew.
Yep.
And in NASCAR, the schedule, the CDL drivers, and a lot of people love doing that. It's a little bit different than working on the cars because it's the everlasting gobstopper on the road nonstop.
Right.
But volunteers, I hear a lot of times, hey, I'll volunteer, you fly me in, get me a rental car in a room, I'm good to go. And it's like, well, so I'm going to spend a couple $1,000 to see if you're any good. Yeah. I still say you need to. It helps if you're something local. If you come to the shop, because somebody's always going to go, all right, man, help us unload this stuff. Hey, let's get the new guy all dirty, right? Let's have, hey, get rid of this old oil. Let's pull this. You take all the dirty clutch stuff, right? There's always something. You have to be willing to do that. I know for a fact, I remember sleeping in the back of freaking pickup trucks to go work on people's cars, race cars, with the hope that I might get to drive one of them, right? And because I never dreamed or wanted to be an owner. It's all about driving, right? Driving is what it's all about. And so, but at the same time, you still had to prove yourself. And so if you're serious about doing it and you show up, or, your college education may be the money that you have to spend in savings to go like, what, I'm going to commit to showing up at these 17 races this year.
Yep.
And eventually somebody's going to go, man, you're here all the time. Eventually somebody's going to go, well, I need you to do this on a Wednesday or whatever. And then all of a sudden the team's going to go like, well, I guess you're on my payroll now, or you're on my dollar, right? It's just, and if you understand pit crews over the wall in NASCAR, or in the middle of a motor change or blow or top and stuff on a field car, there's nobody on the planet, I don't care how skilled you are, that you can just, hop in the middle of the game, right? You can't just be like, hey, man, I know I can throw a football, put me in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be there behind the scenes and understand what's going on.
Oh, all you got to do is go and look at our video, or Cletus's video, when McFarland Racing hopped in to tear the motor down. It's not that simple.
Yeah.
They were learning real quick. Trial by fire.
Trial by fire, exactly. It's funny, how that goes.